Okay, this is so we're going back to politics world, people. Well, kind of. This is from the Intercept. I like the Intercept. I think it's a good publication. And sometimes I like to read and learn about the youth and how they're not okay. So let's read about it. This is Clavicular and the Right Wing Project to Radicalize Young Men by Elaine Stephens. The popular streamer offers easy answers to why the world has left young men feeling unhappy and alone. Yeah, they have, or he has. Braden Peters, better known online as Clavicular, did not become famous by offering young men discipline in any ordinary sense. He became famous by selling them Ascension, the promise that a better face, leaner body, harsher jaw, and ruthless optimization could buy them power in a world they believe has already priced them out. In April, that sermon hit a grisly wall, or more accurately, a floor, when Peters was hospitalized after a suspected overdose during a live stream in Miami. I covered that already, people. You can go see my opinions on that. Bloody and bruised, he later described the hospitalization as brutal. Yeah, I mean, he's on like so many uppers and stuff, man. Along with like I think he does like test as well. Like I think he does some sort of steroids. So yeah, I'm not surprised they ended up in a hospital. In the aftermath, Clavicular's online presence has unraveled. YouTube recently removed his channels for repeated policy violations, including linking to prohibited sites and attempting to evade a previous ban. Despite being pushed off major platforms, he doubled down, staging a stunt trip late last month with a group of young women to Little St. James, the private island once owned by Jeffrey Epstein. Why? God, dear God, what is wrong with you? This dude, he has the worst judgment of any person who has ever existed. So I guess YouTube banned him. I think he's on Kick now. So, you know, I guess you can find him over there if you want to watch someone destroy their life in real time. Now, that same pattern of boundary pushing has bled into the courts. Clavicular is facing a civil lawsuit in Florida from Alexandra Mendoza, who alleges battery, fraud, and emotional distress. Okay, I did not know that he had, you know, hit a girl or whatever. I honestly, I thought that like the worst things about him were just what he was doing in front of the camera. I didn't know that like behind the camera he was doing this shit. So yeah, that ain't good. Including claims that he injected her with a non-FDA approved substance during a live stream and engaged in non-consensual sex. Okay. Yeah, he's evil. That's not good. Still, the streamer seems to make news almost daily, most recently for reportedly entering into a club venture in Miami with a man with ties to the Israeli mob. And he's going like, what? He's working with like IOF, like former IOF people too. God. It's like he's trying to make me hate him even more. I used to think it was kind of funny until I read this paragraph. Like that's now I think it's like, oh yikes, dude. Like funny and like a you know, like he's destroying his life kind of way or whatever, like a shit show to watch. None of this ongoing ordeal is some tragic footnote to the Clavicular brand. It has been him reaching his final form, stripped of filters, a young man preaching mastery through chemical self-invention, then collapsing live on camera only to be slapped with subpoenas. The new prophet of male despair. Clavicular's movement lives in the vocabulary of looksmaxxing, hardmaxing, and ascending, a lexicon born in incel-adjacent internet forums and now being pushed into the mainstream by TikTok, Kick, and algorithmic outrage. I won't lie. I've done my part in putting some of that language out there because I think it's so funny, man. I think that the maxing, anything maxing is funny. But yeah, looksmaxxing and mogging. I think mogging is hilarious. Looksmaxxing culture didn't emerge from nowhere. It grew out of the French online forums where users reduce attraction to power, status, and looks, obsessively rate faces, and turn self-improvement into unyielding, almost cynical hierarchy of attractiveness. I feel like they don't understand attractiveness. The moment you try to scientifically analyze attractiveness is the moment that it loses all meaning and it no longer applies. Like anybody who tries to characterize on a scale of 1 to 10 the attractiveness of people or whatever is automatically like losing their ability to actually like authentically find someone attractive. Like and also obviously it's subjective or whatever, but this sort of stuff, yeah, it really ruins any sort of like you know, like even just the very concept of attractiveness. His popularity stems from selling what he claims is the answer to a worldview born from the insular hodgepodge of pickup artists, anti-women forums, and involuntary celibacy groups, and he's dragged it into the spotlight. I've talked about it before, but there was a time where I read a book by a pickup artist back whenever I was in high school, because I was like, I definitely could have been one of these guys who fell into the pipeline of like these incel people or whatever. And that's why I have a soft spot for like trying to pull people out of this like deranged worldview that they're going into, because it's not good. You're never going to find happiness if you go down this route. You got to be normal. Okay, people. The thing that got me out of it was just going to college and meeting different people. And I didn't take it that seriously. I just read the one book because I was feeling like insecure. Like that was the reason that I read it. And I thought it was cool the time that I read it. And then I, kind of grew up, went to college, and like became a normal functioning member of society. This is what these people do, is they keep people in a perpetual state of childhood, like high school, like mentality. Which is not going to be good for their happiness. It's arrested development. He has promoted steroid use, bone smashing, injecting peptides, and even using meth as part of a savage self-improvement regimen aimed mostly at young men. For someone who does steroids, he needs to get a better body. I'm telling you. His physique is easily achievable, completely natural. That's my advice to him, that if you're going to do steroids, at least look like you do steroids. He has also drifted openly around Andrew Tate, Nick Fuentes, and the broader online right, while insisting politics are for jesters, an insult in the Looksmaxxing community. That juke is its own tale, because when a teenager builds an audience on hierarchy, humiliation, sexual scarcity, and racialized beauty standards, he's doing politics whether he says so or not. That's true. Being apolitical is kind of just a non-thing. It doesn't necessarily really, I don't know. That's my personal opinion, but it's not unheard of for a young man to throw himself into. It's also, saying you're apolitical is usually a way to just like pretend like you're not a right winger in general. Unlike me, I am truly apolitical. I am an apolitical, common sense dude who believes in common sense things like overthrowing capitalism and seizing the means of production. Just common sense, everyday views. Okay, people. It's not unheard of for a young man to throw himself into the gym, practice self-discipline, embark on a rigid diet, and create a public-facing persona. I've imbibed on bodybuilding culture in my own life, but Clavicular's worldview is fueled by more than simple vanity. It is black pill nihilism and gym clothes. The black pill tells young men that the social order is fixed, intimacy is a commodified market, and the only thing left is to become more physically dominant than the next guy or accept your permanent irrelevance. In that mental framework, body maintenance becomes class warfare of the face. It is a triage in a mating economy. Clavicular did not invent male despair, but he has certainly monetized it to his own great success. That was very well said. I have nothing to add to that. Black-pilled. There's a reason this message is resonating. Clavicular, okay, we're going to get into the actual, because the reasoning is that young men just don't have a vehicle towards success, and they've been told what they're supposed to do for success, and it's unachievable at this state in late stage capitalism. That's my personal opinion. But let's see what the people at the Intercept say. There's a reason this message is resonating. Clavicular's runaway to launch is an America where young men are more atomized and are worse off than their forefathers. Young American men are lonely, socially afraid, and increasingly detached from the kinds of institutions that once gave people identity outside romance and work. Gallup found that 25% of U.S. men ages 15 to 34 say they felt lonely a lot of the previous day, a higher number than young women and a second in the world among our peer countries. The 2023 Surgeon General's Advisory on Social Connection warned the country's broader epidemic of isolation is not merely personal, but structural. Capitalism is an inherently isolating ideology. It is. Everything is individual. You're not allowed to think of things in terms of like structural inequities or like, communal efforts. Like everything is supposed to be individual under capitalism. And so this isolation that people feel is a direct part of that. The entire broader like society that we've created is intended to keep people isolated. Particularly, I think of like suburbs and stuff where everybody's in their own little home, isolated from like their own little castle, and barely ever talk to each other and stuff or whatever. There's lots of other aspects of it too, but that's just one at the top of my brain. Gone too is the era where men could feel like they were contributing to the community and world around them. A farmer could see his food nourishing his neighbors. A cobbler's work lived on the feet of his peers, and a doctor literally saved the lives of his local village. These are now nothing more than oral legends passed down from baby boomer and Gen X parents of the way it used to be. Yeah, because now a farmer exploits labor to maximize their profits, like giant corporate farms do that. A cobbler is now Nike, like like a machine built to like to create as many shoes as low of a cost as possible, just high enough quality that people don't complain, and then ship them out to everybody to maximize profits. And a doctor, don't even get me started. The commodification of like healthcare is like, everybody's experienced that. So again, all of this, I mean, me, everything's capitalism's fault, but seriously, in this aspect, it really is. But it is also revisionist history. There is the part too many elders refuse to admit. A lot of men were raised to expect an unearned inheritance. It was an entitlement gained at the exclusion of everyone else. They were assured that stable work, baseline social respect, and starting a family would follow if they merely stayed on the tracks as a heterosexual yet basic white man, but the tracks have buckled. Economist Raj Shetty's work on mobility found that 90% of children born in 1940 earned more than their parents. For children born in the 1980s, that figure had fallen to around half. Meanwhile, wage growth for the top has badly outpaced the bottom 90% over the long arc of modern American inequality. That does not excuse reactionary politics, but it does explain why so many young men feel they were promised adulthood and handed precarity. I kind of talked about that before. The modern far right, which has stepped in to fill the space, I know what I want to talk about. There is a way to get a feeling of communal good, though. And that is to go out in your community and like do some organizing, organize your workplace, or go out and create a food drop-off site for homeless people or something. If you go out and like work with your community and try to just better society in whatever way you want to do. For me, it's by it's very like labor stuff, or electoral politics and whatnot. But you don't have to do what I do. But that is a way to get this sense of somewhere to put your effort towards that isn't yourself, that you need if you want to be like a functional human being. The modern far right, which has stepped in to fill the space the erosion of our institutions and social fabric have left behind, understand something even modern liberals tend to flatten. Misogyny is not a secondary issue. It is foundational to the entire right-wing project. Researchers have described misogyny as a gateway into far-right radicalization, and scholars who research white nationalism have shown how great replacement ideology is soaked in reproductive anxiety, the fantasy that white decline is caused not just by immigration, but by women refusing their assigned breeding role in these circles. Women are not citizens. They are demographic assets and currency. That's a good point. I mean, I knew that it was foundational to their project, but yeah, they said it very well there. But as civil rights, reproductive rights, and immigration have expanded opportunities, life isn't so easy for the static white-bread young men of America. They now have to bring more to the table. It is why in if you're talking about like in terms of like dating and stuff, yes, you can't just be at this point in time, you are not able to be like a fucking like loser and still, be assigned a woman to like be your new mom after you leave your old mom. Like that era of society is gone ever since, capitalism has essentially forced women into a more like working role. And obviously, I mean, clearly some women want to work, but it is more of just a necessity now. They now have a lot more say in who they end up with. They don't need to find somebody just to like be able to use a bank or whatever like they used to. So yes, you need to work a little bit harder. It is why in Clavicular's talk of ascension doesn't just coincide with a rise in personal male beauty, but in parallel with right-wing manosphere attacks on what has been the perceived robbery of white male entitlements. It's no shock that much of Clavicular's vocabulary aims to diminish women, whom he publicly humiliates on his stream and reduces into self-serving chasers of status, making claims of centuries-old patriarchal domination as a societal good. It's an ethos that punches back at the external reality of his impressionable fan base. This is why Clavicular matters beyond his own cartoonish excess. He is not just some young misanthrope with a camera and a syringe. He is a clean vessel for a much older grievance. That sweeping social change has stripped certain men, especially but not exclusively cis white men, of an unearned ease their fathers and grandfathers treated as normal. That's true. I think that there's a lot of things happening. But also there is an aspect, I think, of aesthetic, like focus, like just general focus of aesthetics that, like, in particular, high school aged men go through. High school aged men go through a phase. Like, I don't know if it's inherent to them. I don't know if it's societal. I don't know if it's capitalism's fault, like everything else. But high school men do go through a phase of like reactionary, like hyper aesthetics focused, like just like on average, not all of them obviously, but on average they go through this phase. I think the key thing is to have male role models out there that can capture their attention but point their energy in the right direction. And that's where I always say, like, people like, I think Hassan do a really good job, because he looks like just any like the classic male like attractive male masculinity or whatever, like the traditional masculine like look, but then he funnels these people into a more positive direction for change. And I think that someone like him would have been great to have when I was growing up, like when I was in high school, to watch, because then it could have helped me not even have like my little reactionary stint when I was back then. So, I think that like that sort of stuff is very important as well. Because a lot of people in America are just so hyper focused on aesthetics. I think it is important to have people who have an aesthetic, like an appeal, like to traditional masculine aesthetics, who is not necessarily preaching like this manosphere bullshit. I think that is kind of important. The disappearing man. The real theft here is spiritual. In a quixotic, that's a hard word, quixotic quest for authenticity, young men are instead being sold a playbook that must are instead being sold a playbook that they must collapse themselves into tiny fixed archetypes: warrior, king, alpha, mogger, Chad. In Clavicular's lane, and under the auspices of social media, the commandment is simpler still: become beautiful or become nothing. Conspicuously absent from that script are virtues like wisdom, tenderness, stewardship, restraint, humor, and even morality. Missing too is heroism, not performative strength, but the harder labor of standing against cruelty, telling the truth under pressure, protecting the vulnerable, and trying to tilt the world a few degrees toward justice. That's also very important. I always tell people there's nothing wrong with being like like having power, right? Or like seeking power, as long as you're seeking power for good. And same with like projecting strength. Like, it's fine to project strength and have strength, but you need to do it for good. If you are using your strength to protect people who are vulnerable, if you are using your power to protect people who are vulnerable, that's a good thing. You should be encouraged to do so. And I think that sometimes, particularly liberals, sometimes can sometimes demonize like strength or power or like things like of that nature, without realizing that it's value neutral. If you're using it for good, it's a good thing. These people, the claviculars and stuff, are just using it for evil. But yeah, it should be encouraged. And I think if we encourage that, I think that young people will be able to see, like, have a vector to use the the things that they want to use in order to better society instead of make it worse. Like, I don't know. I think that it's important to encourage that. That is why the black pill philosophy and broader manosphere is antithetical to perhaps the most important tenet of true growth, courage. It is surrendered disguised as realism. It tells men to stop imagining themselves as builders of community, tasked with fighting unjust systems, and instead obsess over their social ranking. That is intentional too. The system that we have created in America is specifically designed to not allow men to, or like not tell men to use their strength and use their power to fight unjust systems or to organize in a collective manner. And so that is intentional. It is a feudal vision of manhood, with the body as castle, the whole world as an ever-present threat, and other men as rivals. That is the real cowardice of imagination at the center of Clavicular's rise, not that he tells young men to exercise, clean up, or care how they present themselves. Fine, groom yourself, build your body, take some responsibility, but do not confuse optimization with grit, and do not mistake a man begging his followers to buy into his despair for a leader of men. Very well said. Good job, Intercept. I liked it. Yeah, just great article. I think we had some good discussion there.